I just want to say thank you to all the representatives who are here. I testified at a number of hearings, and normally when I leave, I am ready to jump off a cliff, but not tonight. It's just really great. I also want to just thank all the parents who are here from RIPE and all the attorneys and incredibly courageous people. And your bravery is what makes legislation like this happen. So thank you. And thank you to all the representatives who are also supporting this important legislation. So, my name is Howard Walsall, and I serve as the senior rabbi of Temple Beth-El here in Providence. And I'm here to testify in support of House Bill 7541, Rhode Island Parentage Act, a law that will enable every child in Rhode Island to feel safe and secure regarding the status of their parents, and every parent to be safe and secure regarding the status of their children. The ability to establish parental rights is so basic and so fundamental to the human condition that I was shocked to discover that such a law was not already in place. My spouse and I have been blessed with 3 children, and as a heterosexual man, I am by definition a non-birth parent. I've never had to prove my paternity. Indeed, my status as a father has never been questioned by the state. Not once, not ever. So imagine my surprise to discover that some non-birth parents are more equal than others. Is this some kind of scenario from George Orwell's infamous novel, Animal Farm? It couldn't be true. But without the protection of the Rhode Island Parentage Act, it seems clear that here in the state of Rhode Island, some non-birth parents are more equal than other non-birth parents. So you've heard a lot from parents and from attorneys. And as a rabbi, I thought I might just introduce a little bit of what our scripture says about parents who are from non-traditional situations. So, the first book of the Bible, the book of Genesis, recalls a lot of very complicated, very trying circumstances around the subjects of conception, birth, and parenting. Our biblical matriarchs, Sarah, Rebecca, and Rachel, all had one thing in common. All of them were unable to conceive. Sarah tells Abraham to sleep with a servant girl, Hagar, so that they might produce a child. Isaac has to plead with God on Rebekah's behalf so they can conceive the twins, Jacob and Esau. And Rachel, who is also barren, finally, after years of heartache, gives birth to Joseph, but then a few years later, dies giving birth to Benjamin. And I haven't even mentioned that 4 of Jacob's sons are born to 2 different concubines, Bilhah and Zilpah. And these 4 sons have the honor of representing 4 of the 12 tribes of Israel. These 4 children were born outside the bounds of the traditional family, outside the bounds of holy matrimony, and yet neither the children nor the parents were punished for their status. The book of Genesis has 2 principles, at the very least, to teach us when it comes to bearing children. First, it teaches us that giving birth is often difficult and often painful, that it requires perseverance, and that most of the time, the expected path we thought we'd be on turned out to have a lot of side routes and detours. Second, Genesis teaches us that families come in many shapes and sizes, with many configurations and alternatives. For example, how many of you know that after Sarah died, Abraham had 6 more children with his second wife, Keturah? Or that he had even more children with unnamed concubines? Our Bible's filled with stories of the miracle of childbirth, but not one story seeks to deny the rights of those who only wish to be parents. The synagogue I helped lead, Temple Beth-El, represents a high water mark in Rhode Island Jewish aspiration and achievement. its address on Blackstone Boulevard, its large, inspiring sanctuary, and its long recognized status as the Jewish home of many of our city and state's leaders. Temple Beth-El has been a bastion of normalcy, a place where conventional Jewish families find comfort and community. And yet today, the reputation that I just described is only one part of a much more complicated community. We have families with two moms. We have families with a transgender parent. We have families with adopted children. We have families who have children because of in vitro fertilization. We have families with children born from sperm donors, both anonymous and known. We have young people in our religious school who are non-binary. And regardless of the circumstances of our families, they are appreciated and fully embraced. Each family, parent, and child is created in the image of God and are welcomed into our community. How can our state, so proud of its heritage of open-minded freedom, be less accepting? Our scriptures also teach in the book of Leviticus that we may not put a stumbling block in front of the blind. It's not a literal admonition. No one would place a stumbling block in front of a blind person so that he would injure himself. The law is there to remind us that life can be difficult enough for those who walk on a less conventional path. There are stumbling blocks strewn throughout, and navigating around them is challenging enough. Surely the state does not need to put one more gigantic stumbling block directly in their way. Today we can right this wrong. Today we can make the world a little bit fairer. Today we can advance the cause of justice for so many members of our community. Let us protect the rights of both parents and children and pass House Bill 5741. Is that right?
No.
No, 7541. There you go. Nah, 7541. Thank you. You see? Get it right. So, we don't have to raise taxes or budget any funds or spend any of the state's scarce resources to make this happen. All we need to do is the right thing. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Rabbi. Any questions for the Rabbi?